What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Thinktank. Listen, I talk a lot. I think I know what I'm talking about most of the time, and I think I'm right most of the time. I'm 41 years old, and I feel like I've lived an amazing life, all right? But even with all that said, I, as an African, I respect my elders. I respect my elders, and I listen to my elders when they speak. And I'm a Pan-African, but I'm not the only Pan-African. And we have Pan-African elders that have been in the game longer than I've been alive. And what I want you to do is listen to this Pan-African elder, Dr. James Smalls. He's a Pan-African. He's the guy Tiraq Nasheed got foundational Black American from. This is supposed to be Tiraq Nasheed's master teacher. Tiraq Nasheed claims that this Pan-African is his master teacher. Now, I don't know why he believes he's a student of Professor Smalls. I don't know how many lectures he sat in with Professor Smalls. I don't know what he's done with Professor Smalls. If you look at Tiraq Nasheed's career, he's been a chameleon, right? He's been a pimp, fake actor, a comedian, a rapper, a documentary, a Pan-African. Now he's a Black American nationalist. Coon agent is what he is. And his FBA minions that he's created are victims of his debauchery. They're victims. They're highly uneducated, pliable, gullible African Americans. And what I want you FBA people, because I know you FBA hate me, but y'all be watching me though. Y'all watch all my videos. Y'all can't help it. Y'all know y'all Black. Y'all know y'all African. I want you to listen to the guy that you follow, that you say is not the leader, but he's the leader. And when he tells you as the leader that he's not the leader, you as the follower tell everybody else he's not the leader. I want you to listen to somebody that he proclaims to be his leader, the Pan-African Professor James Smalls, which Tiraq Nasheed couldn't wear his shoes. I couldn't wear his shoes. You understand? And when an elder speaks, the youth should listen. I'm 41, but I'm still a youth compared to him. You understand? And I always listen, because we don't know how long we're going to have Baba before he becomes an ancestor. All right? So right now, he's our elder. All right? And don't get it twisted. There are a lot of old people that don't deserve the title of elder, leader, master teacher. They're just people who've survived, and they're just old but stupid. But this guy, he deserves to be called an elder. All right? And I want you to listen to the elder, and when you listen with some respect. Don't let me find you say anything disrespectful about the master teacher in my comment section. I'll block you immediately. But listen to what he has to say about the idea of FBA, about what an African American is, which is an African over here. The same thing I've been telling you is the same thing Professor Smalls been telling African Americans for the better part of his life. I am consistent in my Pan-Africanism, as he may not be my master teacher per se. I've never sat in a class with him. But he's one of the ones that inspired me to do what it is that I'm doing. He's the one who downloaded lots of information into my brain to get me to explore the rest of what Africa has to offer. The rest of the knowledge that we have lost because of the white man. Anyway, without further ado, listen to Tiraq Nasheed's so-called master teacher, the master teacher himself, Professor James Smalls. Anyway, that's all I got to say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn some, teach them. I'm out.
Like when people sit up here and try to play this game that we, foundational Black Americans, they try to sell Africa to us. Oh man, y'all need to go. Man, you go to Africa, you're gonna love it. I've never felt that comfortable before anywhere. Just walking around a city and you can just be you and nobody's gonna harm you. I'm telling you, there's a certain freedom with that, dude. There's a certain freedom with that. There's a certain stress that's not there. That's why everybody's there so calm. Man, you're going to go to Africa. It's so beautiful. Man, you need to go. Y'all need to go over to Africa. Y'all need to go. They keep trying to convince us to go to Africa and move there. But your ass is over here in Georgia. I didn't see anybody arguing. I'm looking for people to be aggressive because I'm so programmed for being in America. If you see a lot of Black folks, somebody's going to start beefing. Just immediately, just on GP. This whole thing, it looks real scammy. You dig? Y'all keep trying to sell. This is tethering 101. You're trying to get us to move out our spot by telling us it's on and popping over here so that we can bounce and then you can come over here and get in the spot. That's all it is. Let's keep it above. But my man said, hey, you see the way it's set up? If somebody wanted to eat and leave, they can do it. Ain't nobody gonna stop them. But we don't do that in Zimbabwe. We don't do stuff like that. That was powerful. That was powerful. Because that's the mentality and that's the vibe they have. They don't do opportunist shit. They don't do shit like that. Because they can. You gotta have a certain level of integrity. What's up, Keisha? Much respect to you. That's called integrity and honor. We're not going to do sucker shit just because we can. And that's the vibe out there, man. They treat everybody with a certain level of respect, especially the elders. The older people, they got a lot of respect for the older people.
It don't matter what country, you live in 10 times better than most rich people here. There's wealthy there and there's rich here. There's a big difference. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So for me, experiencing that and seeing that, and then just the style, the swag, everything has been stolen from.
A thorn in our side for more than a century.
For decades.
Oh, yeah, and we have to contend because there's just so much confusion, right? So, what Baba, why have you? There are 4 sentiments that are often expressed by our young brothers and sisters when we engage them, our FBA family, and they are our family. And when they express them, what they'll say is, well, like Baba James, he aligns with us, but I want to share these 4 sentiments with you, and I can do it one at a time, or I can give you all 4, and I want you to be able to just
do all 4, and I can respond.
We hear being expressed by some of our brothers and sisters. The first one is, Black people in America are not African and have no connection to Africa. We're Native Black Americans. That's one. The second one is, Black people in America may be genetically African, but so is the entire planet. Everybody on Earth is African. That's 2. The third one is, African people on the continent don't refer to themselves as Africans. We're the only ones who call ourselves Africans. That's 3. And the fourth one is, Black Americans are the only ones who practice Pan-Africanism. Those are the 4 most common kind of like retorts that we hear. And they always say, well, Baba James Smalls agrees with us. Like,
well, Baba James Smalls is going to tell him, I don't agree to none of that shit I just heard. Because none of it makes sense. And it alludes to the ignorance of not knowing your history. It alludes to the fact that you don't realize that Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Nyeri were all at the Pan-African Conference in Manchester. And when they all walked away from that conference, they led some of the most fierce revolutions on the continent of Africa based on Pan-Africanism. That we got defeated in many sectors by the enemy at the ideological level. We won at the physical base ground level. We got our land back. We got political independence back. We're still fighting for economic, cultural, and intellectual independence from these people. What is so sad, and normally if you ever see me lecture, I got 1 or 2 books. Whatever subject I'm talking about, I got a book, because y'all need to read, because if you don't know history, how are you going to lead anybody politically? That's the sad part about many of the young people. They don't know history. I'm from South Carolina. I'm from a population that was here in this country before the Mongolians came to this country, an African population. I know who they are. I grew up attending their grave, the mongs where they bury themselves, because our grandfather made sure we cleaned them every year. I'm also from a population that came in later on with chains on them from Sierra Leone and with chains on them from Uganda. And I know them. These are my great-great-grandparents. I'm only the 4th generation born. Mama first, Ning second. I'm the 3rd generation African born in this country. From those Sierra Leone Mendi people I'm from those Tutsi people I'm from in Uganda. And I've been out and found my family. So, and for those people who had come by the boats into the Bahamas, into what is Haiti, and made it up through Florida to North America before the Mongolians came across the Bering Strait, they're the same people. They came from the same Sierra Leone, the same Ghana, the same, you understand? The Malian people who came in between those 2 episodes came from the same West African kingdoms.
Yes.
So I don't understand where their brains are when they say, I'm not an African. And all this tells me that self-hate, self-ignorance, lack of understanding of African history and of history in general are what we are dealing with people who have taken some, what do you call it, clips, little sound bites from the internet, and now they've become historians and political leaders because they can get a bunch of people to, when you push the little button for them, subscribe.
Yeah.
And that's insanity. That's why you see me out here, because I didn't do a lot of stuff on the internet. Or brother says snippets. I like that even better. Okay, snippets. Because I was very quiet for a while. And then I go like, I can't stay quiet. So but the last year and a half, I've just been out here trying to teach as much as I can. And everything has to go back to the history. Yes, we were the first. We're the Aborigine everywhere in the world. Hell, we're the Aborigine in Europe. We're the Aborigine in China. But that don't make us non-Africa, because everybody that walked on the planet Earth walked out of Africa, yes. But the people who we're talking about, those who are not the mutants, people want to go there, let's go there. You're going to tell me that something got trapped in the ice, mutated, and then decide to declare war on nature, on God itself. And the war is against me and you, the African, because they see us as the epitome of the authenticity of the divinity itself. We got to know what we're really up against. Mm-hmm. They don't have a clue, most of the young people who are using these labels, partially because they feel hurt and rejected by their own people who feel hurt and rejected by them. You, the brothers and sisters who come from the continent of Africa, they look at, but we have not reached out to help them. We have no welcoming wagon for them. So if the enemy takes them and give them counseling and guidance and jobs and stuff, we gonna blame the hungry man? Or should we blame ourselves because we weren't the one there that said, welcome, brothers and sisters. Here's how we're going to get you a job. Here's how we're going to find you a place to live. Here's how we're going to help you get your children in school. Here's how we're going to get you on your feet and get started. Well, we left that to the enemy. And now we mad with our brothers and sisters because they didn't stay there and died and starved to death. No, we have to get our brains straight. We have to understand what being an African means, you know. The melanin is essential to our Africanization because we are the universe itself, yes. But being an African means the thing we describe as God, that's what being an African means. Mm. That thing we call the divinity, that's the character of the African itself. That's our culture. And people are afraid because that means you got to change your little black behind into something better than what the white man has created you to be. You're going to give me the white slop and then give it a name like Foundation of Black America. Don't label me with slop. Now, if you use that because you're trying to find an identity, I'll help you with that. Because you deserve to have your own identity like everybody.
Yes.
But don't bring the same white slop along saying you're anti-African, you are not African, you're not from Africa. That's the white slop that they've been trying to push in our brain from day one. Throw that slop out. Empty and wash your bucket, and let us bring some real black stuff up in there. Let's talk about Martin Delaney. Let's talk about Booker Washington. Let's talk about Ida B. Wells. Let's talk about Harriet Tubman. Let's talk about Sojourner Truth. Go back in our history. Every organization that we formed from the 1700s forward was called the African something. Every damn one. Prince Hall.
African Masons.
Free African Lodge, 1749 or someplace up there. Richard Allen, Absalom Jones, the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, the African Methodist Church, the Black Baptist Movement, the African Baptist Church. This is all back in the 1700s, okay? By the time we hit the 1792, Malcolm didn't invite the Afro-American nothing. In 1892, a group of black women out of Rochester, New York, formed the Afro-American League, headed by T. Thomas Fortune. Okay. We had the United African Societies. This is all in the 1800s. So they need to study some history. Yeah. We never stop identifying ourselves as African. Not one moment, not one day, not 1 hour. You know? And so I understand the hurt that some of them feel, but a lot of this hurt is out of the ignorance. Our brothers and sisters from the continent is being murdered and killed by the same cat on Wall Street that's murdering and killing us.
Yes.
They're just doing it long distance or got some surrogates. They have impoverished them just as they have impoverished us. All the Europeans and others stepping off of a boat every day as immigrants, you got no issue with them, but you got an issue with your brother and sister who's trying to survive and come and wake and make a little bit of money and send back home to keep his mama medical bills paid and to send his little brother and sister to school somewhere. Yes, there's a problem. He doesn't know you and you don't know him. So then that should be what our work should be about.
Yeah.
About to reach out to one another, grab each other, figure out how to educate one another, you know, and we can criticize each other, but let the criticism be about love and unity, not the criticism be about destruction and death of our own people.
Yeah, they're not here to usurp us. They're not this notion that everything that happens bad in Black America is a non-FBA person doing, or they're here to steal resources. And
crap. I always tell folks, who was selling the dope down on the corner? Who was the hip hopper with the pants up the behind? Who was Jacqueline? Listen, I have not, and let me tell my brothers something so they get it real clear. No disrespect, my sister, because you standing here, right? But 95% of our Black women is molested and raped by Black men right here in African America before they're 15 friggin' years old. So you got some shit to deal with. And so you better deal with looking in the mirror and see what you're calling a Black man as a white man in blackface. Now, if you want to get to being a Black man, you got to study the history of your African self. Mm-hmm. And you got to look at the work of those who have gone before you. And you can't belittle Fannie Lou Hamer by just calling her name and not seeing the work that Fannie Lou Hamer was doing. You can't talk about Malcolm X and not seeing the transformation that Malcolm went through. The point of Malcolm's life was to say, I brought myself through knowledge of self from the garbage can and the trash of white supremacy to an African man. The last name he took for himself is Omowale, the child who returned home.
Yes, sir.
Not Malik. Okay? So we need to study history. And let me be clear. My FDA brothers and sisters, I love them. I am not going to abandon them. I am going to teach them. And I am going to work to get them to see. Because the ones I've met, these are not young people who hate Africa. They just don't friggin' know.
They don't know what they don't know.
When I spoke in D.C. and I talked about I'm an African, I'm an American, I named all the labels we can use, but at the end of that label, I'm an African. They cheered. It's just that nobody's explaining it to them. Nobody's showing them how to link it up.
Baba, let me make,
because those in the leadership don't know how to do it.
Well, a part of that is that there's this plausible deniability. They're saying that there is no leadership, and I think that's
they don't understand what influence is. A leadership is someone who can influence your thoughts, and that then influence your actions.
And there is someone influencing their thoughts and their actions, but he's saying that he's not their leader. But Baba, really quick, because I want all
Jewish groups, we're talking about money. We're going to get you some reparations. Native American, they start talking money when they're talking to Native Americans. They start talking about policy and money. When it comes to Black folks, well, I went to a museum and I saw some slave chains. And that just reminded me of the slave shack. Oh, we get the fucking campfire stories when it comes to Black folks. That's how they think we're stupid. And we got to stop being stupid for them. That's how you talk to people who you do not respect, who people you feel are stupid. You can just throw them any type of symbolic bullshit and they go for it. We got to get off that symbolism bullshit. Understand this.
The white supremacists are the smartest people on the planet. I 100% agree with that.
Wow. Somebody had to be smart and somebody had to be dumb.
Yep.
And it seems to me that the people of color are the dumb one because, as you said, it's the white people who are making this happen, right?
I agree 100%.